So we've dealt with some of the 5 reasons. Another of the 5 reasons is statutory restriction. So if the employment of the employee contravenes some statute, for example, it's unlawful to employ that employee in that job. That's not very common. And another reason for a fair dismissal is redundancy, which I'm not going to deal with in this video because it's a subject all of its own. It can't reasonably be compressed into a few minutes. And the 5th reason is what's known in the trade as SOSR, which is some other substantial reason. Now, some other substantial reason would be any other reason, and it would be fair to dismiss an employee doing that job for that reason. Now, it's not particularly easy to understand some other substantial reason unless you look at some of the decisions. A very good example is a case where an employer had to dismiss an employee because the union that ruled the roost in the whole factory said that everyone was going to go on strike unless that employee was dismissed. And it was held to be fair that the employer dismissed in those circumstances. Another example would be where an employer has an employee who's doing 2 days a week and the job expands and the employer needs somebody in that position. It doesn't need a part-time worker in that position anymore, it needs a full-time worker in that position. And it approaches the employee and it says, look, we need somebody full-time doing this job. And they say, no, we can only do 2 days a week. And so the employer investigates the situation and discovers that it can't do anything else. It can't get anyone else in. It can't get any other part-time employees in. It has no option but to, if you like, replace that employee. So it dismisses that employee for some other substantial reason. Now, provided the employment tribunal didn't think it was part-time discrimination, if the employment tribunal thought that the employer had a good reason and it was fair in all the circumstances of the case for the employer to dismiss that employee, then that would not be an unfair dismissal. Now, you have to be very careful with SOSR, some other substantial reason. You have to make sure that the situation is investigated, that you consult with the employee, that you warn the employee of the risk of dismissal, you give them an opportunity to state their case and to give alternatives. You explore every alternative to dismissal, all the alternatives to dismissal, and also before making a decision to dismiss, the employer needs to balance their interests against the interests of the employee. So some other substantial reason, it can be fair to dismiss for any reason as long as it is fair, if that makes sense, but it's something that the employer needs to be very careful about. Well, that's the end of the unfair dismissal summary, and next month I'm going to be talking about constructive unfair dismissal and a little bit about redundancy as well.